Welcome to Mike the Baptist. We're going to start with the buzzer today because I feel it coming. Serious talk's coming up. Going to be a lot of churchy language, so I'm just getting warmed up, being prepared. Welcome back to Mike the Baptist, and welcome back to my preacher friends. Neil across the table.
Hello.
Neil Andrews, good to see you back.
You too. Thank you.
I'll ask you if anything new is anything new here in a minute. No, okay. I may not remember that. So anything new?
Nope.
Okay, good. Moving on. H.D. Jones is also across the table.
What's up, bro?
Good to see you again, and I'm glad you came back. It's encouraging when you come back. And you're working yourself out of the frame there just a little bit. You might
come this way.
Yeah, you can see yourself right there. I'll cut that out, maybe. Anyway, I forget where I was, but Kuntz.
Jackson.
Michael Kuntz. He's not from Virginia. I still have that in my head. I do not know why. I wish I could get that out.
Love is in the air.
Did Minutemen, the Minutemen, did they have these little goatees? Is that where I'm getting that?
I'm not sure. King Tut did.
I'm not either. I knew King Tut did, but I know you're not from Egypt.
You remember that Saturday morning, those little cartoon things? Minutemen were ready on the move. Take your powder, take your gun.
Yeah, so didn't
General Washington.
That had to be before me.
Schoolhouse Rock. Schoolhouse Rock stuff.
Well, I watched Schoolhouse Rock, but I don't remember that one.
You remember that one?
No, I remember the bill, I want to be a bill or something like that.
Take your powder, take your gun, report to General Washington.
It's off the rails.
Why is this stuff in our head,
Well, I think when you walk into this particular building, it happens. It happens when there's nobody here.
Could be radon.
So it might be something. There's something going on. Every day when I drive over here, I kind of wonder what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Because it's usually something different every day. Anyway, I don't know where we were, but welcome back to Mike the Baptist. We're glad you came back too, if you're listening or watching or even if you're just thinking about it. Today, we finally have email. We've been complaining about having this fancy email address, and nobody's sending us emails. Well, the email coffers coughed up this week, and we're beginning to get email. Rather than just run through them all, I think what I'm going to do is select one once in a while, and if they have something they want to ask the preachers, I think we will turn that into a good front porch visit. This will also excite the people who like to listen to this fast, because otherwise I'd be doing the emails and the front porch visit and finding other ways to really stretch things along. But I'm not going to do that to you. We have a mutual friend. Her name is Glenda. In the interest of safety for all concerned, we will not give Glenda Steele's last name on the air. So we're only going to do this by first name. This particular listener, watcher, is named Glenda. Glenda wanted to know, she said it'd be nice to hear, and I agree with her, that what was one of your favorite Christmas traditions as a child? And she also went on with another question, what was your favorite Christmas tradition with your own children today? So this is a two-part topic. So what I'd like for you to do is share something you remember that you did as a family, as a tradition when you were young and small, and then something you do with your own kids today, if you can remember enough to fill up that gap right there.
Gotcha.
Okay,
well I'll jump in there. So,
yep.
I was fortunate to have both sets of my grandparents when I was a kid, and so Christmas was always just a really cool time for them to come around, and we had a lot of laughs. But I remember things like I always enjoyed just putting stuff together. So like for my sister and anybody got something new, I like to put it together and stuff. And then the other thing we always got a big kick out of is one of my grandmothers, Ruby. Ruby was a good cook, but it just didn't look good when she made it. I mean, jam cake. I mean, it kind of looked like this jar of pickled bottoms that you have here. Yeah. It was bad. I mean, it would fall apart. It just, I mean, you wouldn't have taken it to a homeless shelter, but it was really good. So we'd always get tickled about that. So those are some fond memories as a kid.
So that was a tradition?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, by
Ruby's fall apart foods?
Oh, yeah, coconut cake. And she'd always start off with, hee, I know this looks terrible, but it's good, because she was eating on it the whole time she was making it. And it really was. It was really good. We laugh about that now, and we're like, yeah, we miss the jam cake and the coconut cake. Now everybody just wants to go to Kroger and buy one. But
is Ruby still in the loop?
She's in heaven now.
That's kind of what I was asking.
Yeah, she's not in this loop, but she's in the next loop.
She's up there making heavenly fall apart dishes.
Yeah, she's probably looking better up there. But so that's kind of stuff I remember as a kid. There's a lot more, but we got time delays here. So then for our kids, all our kids were always upstairs. That's where their bedrooms were, and we would make them sit at the top of the steps and wait for me to come around with the video camera. And so, Micah, who's the only one that's still living with us now at 21, we'll make him wait at the top of the steps so we can get his picture and stuff coming down the steps. But yeah, that's kind of a cool tradition for us.
You make him do that at 21?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Santa's not going to come see you if you don't play by the rules. So,
well, yep. I think it's good that you stick with it. They know they can count on something.
That's right.
All right. Is that it? That was really brief.
Hey.
It was really concise, I guess.
Yeah.
Anybody ready? Coots?
Sure. So growing up, I guess this would be a tradition. Mom would always make a wide variety of chocolates and treats and things like that at Christmas time, and she'd always start usually like on Thanksgiving Day and just continue to make stuff all the way until Christmas. And so we always had like an abundance of like Chex Mix. Loved that stuff. And she'd make bags and bags and bags of Chex Mix, the Buckeyes and Divinity, the chocolate covered with Ritz crackers with peanut butter, sugar cookies, and then we'd always decorate the sugar cookies, put the icing on, put the sprinkles on. So that was kind of it.
I'm
getting hungry.
I know. I wish I knew somebody would make all that stuff for me now, because I miss all those treats and stuff. So especially the sugar cookies. If we have some people that make homemade sugar cookies with icing.
It is the Christmas season.
Giving.
It's
more blessed to give. Right.
Yeah, and we need something to review on this program.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, carry on.
Yeah, so I guess that would be the tradition.
Hint.
We'll move right along. That would be my from a childhood. And with our family, we took our son. He was just like 2 or 3 years old when the Polar Express was out in the movie theaters. And so we went to that, went to an IMAX screening of it. And it got to a certain point, he got scared, started screaming, crying and stuff. So we didn't make it through the movie. Go a couple more years, when it comes out on video, we watch it at home, and he likes it. And so we started that year a tradition where usually on Christmas Eve we will watch the Polar Express and have a can of Coca-Cola, because he wasn't allowed to have soft drinks as a little fella. So that would be his annual treat, to have a small can of Coca-Cola, watch the Polar Express, and then go to bed and wait for Santa Claus to come see us.
Man. Did he only get Coca-Cola once a year?
Yeah.
Man, this is why he's doing great in the military, because he grew up in the. Wow, that's terrible.
Yeah, we were.
As much as you drink Coca-Cola, that is awful.
He's going like, I can handle one Coke a year.
I came home yesterday. I looked in the refrigerator, and there's a case of Coca-Colas. And I looked at Jan. I was like, "What's this?" And she's like, "Well, I might want a Coca-Cola." I was like, "We don't drink those at home no more."
Oh, you got to tell about Divinity.
Yeah, so my poor son.
Poor TJ.
Must be good.
Pray for TJ.
Mom, one of the treats that Mom made was Divinity, that white stuff,
yep.
Pure sugar. Always had that. Loved it. Well, when TJ was about that same age, about 3-4 years old, he loved it, but I told him it wasn't Divinity. I told him it was pecan pie. And so this went on for a couple of years, and he believed that he was eating pecan pie. And he'd ask somebody for pecan pie. He'd get a piece of pecan pie. And he's like, "That's not pecan pie." So it's probably one of the reasons my son don't talk to me a lot.
Right?
That is good right there.
Wow. I wonder how the psych eval went for for him going to the Air Force. And,
that's the kind of stuff you should do to children.
Yeah, they give you a picture of something. And he's yelling out, "Pecan pie!"
Yep, he's retarded.
So how old was he when he realized?
Oh, gosh, I don't know. It took a few years.
I mean, should we not be saying this right now?
He probably won't listen, so it's okay.
Shouldn't be giving it away. That's funny. That's
He might come to
funny.
realization when he goes to Thanksgiving dinner on the base here this week and ask for some pecan pie.
That is really funny.
Yeah.
Okay, Neil.
I wish I were part of their families. That sounded like it was a lot of fun.
Sounds like it was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, to me.
My memories were getting together with family. When nuclear family seems to have exploded, and so people are not together anymore, and I kind of miss that. But ever since I've been involved in what I'm doing for a living now, we don't have any traditions except when Christmas lands on a Sunday morning, I can't sleep in.
By the way, get ready for that this year.
It's funny. I just a couple of weeks ago, I just asked my boys. I've got 3 sons, and I said, "What do you remember tradition-wise about Christmas?" And they said that it didn't matter what we did, just that we did it together as a family.
Oh,
Good
wow.
answer.
That is so cool.
Yes.
Hey,
Yeah.
they said it, not me.
Yeah.
But that's tradition-wise.
But you must have caused it to happen, so.
Well, I did something. I don't know.
Yeah. That's good.
Yeah.
So, is that when you were a kid or they were kids?
That's when they were kids.
But when you were kids,
I remember being together with family.
the same thing.
Yeah, going to my grandparents' farmhouse.
And you're from
Indiana.
Indiana.
I don't know what a Hoosier means.
Yeah, we've been through that, and I still don't know. It'd be interesting to know, but
Yes.
anyway, your phrase on a recent promo where you said, "I was born in Indiana." So I just love that. It's so good. Speaking of promos, were you through expounding on your?
Absolutely.
Just briefly, I want to point out that a friend of mine came up to me over the weekend, and I had released a promo of the preachers. And in response to all the people that like to listen fast, one day up here in the studio, I thought, I wonder how this would sound if it was slow. And I put one of our video podcasts on half speed, 0.5 on YouTube. And it was hilarious. Everybody sounded drunk, just sounded plastered. And I thought, this is crazy. And it sounded real. So, as you guys know, with your blessing and told me it was okay, I put out that little promo last week. Well, a friend of mine came up to me, son, he said, "How are you guys so good at that?" I said, "At what?" He said, "That talk." I said, "Oh, you don't need the Bible talks? We just, we're just talking like guys, sitting around talking." He says, "No, he says, he was talking about, he thought, he didn't know that was slowed down. He thought we were just doing that.
Really
He was wondering
character.
how we were so good at being drunk." And it was hilarious. I thought, that's great. But anyway, just so everybody knows, we were not. It's just slowed down. Slow one down sometime. It's very entertaining. It is very entertaining.
It lasts longer that way, too.
And it will last longer. So
Be like the Lord of the Rings.
instead of an hour and a half, these will last 3 hours for you. You can mow your yard about 8 times. So when I was a kid, what I remember is just what you were talking about, the family get-togethers. And I think everybody kind of talks about that. That was a common theme here. And I was raised by my grandparents. So my grandparents, all their daughters and all their kids came to my house for everything. So my house is where it all convened. And I remember those gatherings. They're just great. There was food and everybody. My family's all like to cackle and laugh and cut up. And it's just, it's just a lot of fun. But one thing that stands out a whole lot to me are the football games. All of us cousins, all the boys and the girls that came up from Texas up. My mother had 5 boys, no girls. Her sisters each had, 2 of her sisters had all boys, no girls. The other sister had all girls, no boys. It was interesting how that worked, but anyway, we'd all get together and have these incredible football games out beside the house there on Thanksgiving and Christmas and all. Years down the road, my oldest cousin in Texas, she and I put together a family reunion out in Arkansas, and we convened on this lodge thing down there. But anyway, it was I think it must have been Thanksgiving, so it was cold outside. Well, a lot of us boys decided, hey, football game. We'll teach the younger generation how we used to do this. So we went out in the front yard of this place and played this football game the best we could at our ages at that time. But what I remember most about it is that my cousin Keith, I think, suffered for at least a year and might have had a surgery on his shoulder because he, like in the old days, I think he dove for a pass, and you don't do that when you're in your 40s or so. So, but anyway, yeah, we had those family gatherings, all the cooking and big fun. Traditionally, with my kids, they got a letter from Santa every year. That was just a thing. Even though the nights when Santa was incredibly tired and really didn't feel like writing a letter in cursive, which Santa never writes in cursive, but he wrote that in cursive. They always got that letter. We don't do that anymore because I think they figured out some things. So,
You still have any of the letters?
We don't, but they might. My son probably does. He's very good at keeping things, so he probably has some of that stashed away somewhere. Above us in the studio are plastic tubs with most of my kids' schoolwork and a lot of other things. I just can't throw things away. So I have a whole bunch of things that they're going to throw away someday because they don't want it either. So, but I can't get rid of it. Okay, well, I'm all teary-eyed now about Christmas memories and all that. Keep the emails coming because we will start turning those email questions into front porch visits, and the insane questions are more than welcome as well. We'll jump right on. Thank you, Glenda, last name withheld, for sending us an email. And folks, don't forget, you too can send an email to comments@mikethebaptist.com, and we will either A, ignore it, B, answer it with some sort of fluff, or C, use it on the air and ask these guys and myself and whoever questions, or just talk about that kind of stuff. So, okay, that was quick.
Good times.
That's one of the quickest ones. Yeah, I bet. Take a short break. Be back.
Hello, everyone. I'm from your telephone company, and the message that we have for you is that we are changing your telephone service over to dial. It won't be long now until dial telephones are ready to serve you. Instead of hearing the operator's familiar number, please, you'll hear the dial tone. That means that the equipment is ready to handle your call. You will find that dial telephones are very easy to use. Now, let's examine the dial itself for just a moment. For convenience in dialing, the letters go around the dial in alphabetical order. And the numbers are in numerical order, from 1 to 9 and O. And in the center of the dial appears the number of the telephone you are using. There are a few easy rules to be followed when dialing because careless dialing mistakes will waste a lot of your time and cause someone else to be inconvenienced and probably irritated. Now, let's use this demonstration model for a moment while we dial our number. Take up your receiver and always listen for the dial tone. Remember how it sounds, a steady hum. Always be sure to dial the first two letters of the central office name, then the 5 numbers. For example, for word 49970, dial W O 4 9 9 7 O. When dialing, notice that I brought my finger around until it firmly touched the finger stop. And now I remove my finger and let the dial go back by itself, for incorrect dialing causes inconvenience and delay. not only to you, but to anyone you may have dialed in error. Soon after you dial the number you want, you will hear this tone. That's the ringing signal, an interrupted burring sound. Now, if the number dialed is busy, you will hear a signal like this. The busy signal, a buzz-buzz sound. If you wish at any time to review dial procedure, you will find instructions in the front of your directory. If you will remember these easy rules, you will dial correctly and be pleased with the use and convenience of your dial telephone.
Hey, we're back. Thanks for sticking with us. And I don't know what you just heard in the break, but maybe you liked it, maybe you didn't. Either way, we had to rest because we got so emotional in that first segment talking about Christmas memories that we had to rest. Do the Kleenex thing, powder noses, et cetera, et cetera. It's a strange day in a neighborhood here at Mike the Baptist. I don't know what the deal is, but it's a strange day. And I know what you're thinking. They're all strange days, which you would be correct. But today's particularly a little different. Speaking of different, we're going to turn it over to the preachers and talk about some stuff we found in the Bible.
So with us being in the Christmas season right now, when you start looking at the Christmas story and everything that happened with that in the scriptures, we come across a lot of prophecies that have been fulfilled just by Jesus coming into this world and being born of a virgin and all the things that went along with that. And a lot of these prophecies, a lot of things were talked about in the Old Testament portion of the Bible, and then some of the minor prophets talk about some of these things. And one of the things that is kind of pointed out for us is how our Lord would come into this world in very humble beginnings, or in a humble way. And it kind of goes back to his family tree, who he was related to, his ancestors coming into this world. And when you think about things like that, it ought to give us some great assurance that Jesus is who he says he is. Because when something was talked about in the Bible centuries before Jesus ever came into this world, then he comes in and he fulfills those things, those prophecies and such. That really ought to be just some great ammo for us when we're sharing the gospel with other people and letting them know, hey, you can trust Jesus and who he says he is. And I love that part of the Christmas story and what Scripture does for us in giving us those assurances. Y'all got any thoughts about that?
You know the phrase, and we talk about it a lot, especially around Christmas, Emmanuel. We sing those great Christmas hymns and stuff, and just the whole idea of God with us. And that's really what some of those prophecies were foretelling, is that God was going to be in our world and be a part of us. And I don't know about you guys, but it's really humbling to think. We look at Christ's humiliation. It's called the humiliation of Christ when he was born, was placed in a manger, didn't even have a room. You expect a dignitary to have all these nice things, and yet Jesus didn't have the nicest of things, but he left heaven to come and take on our flesh and to be a part of us. And those are the things I think that kind of help us during the Christmas spirit time, is that we think about how God loves us so much that he's willing to come meet us where we are.
I'm intrigued as I think about this that one of the things I pray for frequently is to be able to, I want God to show me things ahead of time. I always want him to show me, I don't want to take that first step, even though he said, just take the step. And I don't want to do that. I want to see something else past that. And I want to see fulfillment of these prophecies. And there's a whole book full of them. And I think we take that for granted a lot of times. Mm-hmm. And don't realize, and it's down to detail, especially when it comes to his crucifixion and the events that were surrounding that. But it's amazing when you look at the time difference of, was it 600 years? Mm-hmm. In Isaiah, is one that is, it's funny if you don't read it thinking about it. It's all about Jesus. The whole book is about him, and it's before he was ever born. It's an intriguing thing.
We were talking before this all started about
Excuse me.
Why would it matter that you know about this lineage and all that? Why would it matter that you, I mean, isn't it okay that he's just there all of a sudden? I mean, why? What's the backstory?
Well, there's really two main things that you have to know about Jesus. And really the difference in not knowing these things, honestly, is the difference between being a true believer and maybe being in a cult. And you have to know that, number one, that he is divine, that he is God, he is co-eternal. So when Jesus is born into this world, that's not his beginning. He has no beginning, nor he has no end. And so he is divine by nature, but then he comes into this world, and so he's taken on a second nature, so to speak. And so those two things, Michael, are important for us to understand, is that he's fully God, but he's also fully man. And that's difficult for our hearts and minds to wrap around. But when you see different churches or cults, people that, oh yes, we believe in Jesus, and then you say, well, do you believe that he's co-eternal with God? Well, no, I don't believe that. Then you're believing in the wrong Jesus. I mean, we have a Michael Jackson, we have a Michael Kuntz. If we say, oh, I know Michael, but I might not know the right Michael. And you have to be careful with that. And it's hard, again, to wrap our mind around, but it's the Son of God that became the Son of Man so that the sons of men could become the sons of God. It's the whole process that he was God that put on flesh. When he put on flesh, he lived that life for us, and then he's still God. He's completely God and completely man at the same time.
So it's important to know, as part of the backstory,
Yep.
the story from the beginning.
Yep.
And then it took time for him to intercede there in the middle, and then the rest of it progresses to an ending. So without that beginning, it would
Right.
be just like all of a sudden one day.
Yep. I mean, we could all, Paul talks about that Jesus was born in the fullness of time. And we could all look at our world today and go, wouldn't it be cool if Jesus came today? Because, we've got CNN and satellites and internet, and he could really gotten his message out. Why did he come then? Well, because he's God, and he knew the best time to come, and that's when he decided to come and to fulfill the purpose of providing that opportunity for us to be saved. So Christmas is a really important time for us to celebrate, because it's the moment that Jesus, laid aside some of his attributes, put them on the shelf. He didn't lose them, but he put them on the shelf to come and put on flesh and become one of us. He didn't come as a superhero. He came as the God-man. And, that's one of those things that's intriguing, is that, he wasn't wealthy. He wasn't politically connected. All those things. He was just a regular Joe, so to speak.
Seems like it's a little more believable because of that.
Yeah.
To me, had he came the other way.
Yeah.
Well, it is, and it's also.
Imagine if he'd have showed up looking like Santa Claus.
Or Superman.
I'll give you a second. Wouldn't have worked the same.
Right.
It just
Or
wouldn't.
Superman, where he, just was so different than the rest of us that you just couldn't relate to him at all. And that's the part of Jesus that I think is really intriguing, is that we can relate to him because he relates to us.
Mm-hmm.
Now, he had no sin, and yes, he was able to do miracles that you and I can't do, but he also experienced difficulties in life. Heartache, headaches, tiredness, hunger. Friends walking away, all those things that is kind of part of living in this broken world, and he's experienced those things, so he understands us by experience.
Which in turn makes it easier for us to understand or feel connected to him.
Feel connected, absolutely.
Because otherwise, I've thought about that a lot at different times since I've been involved in this whole faith business, is that if God had always just been out there somewhere, and I can't see him, you can't really, in a way, prove it, by science and man-made ways. If it had always been that, it would be easier for me not to feel that connected. But the fact that Jesus shows up, and he's got flesh and bone just like me, and I'm sure had hunger pains and the whole thing. If he's fully man, he had to have all of it. But the fact that he did that, it just makes it easier for me to kind of relate to him. Now, explaining all the other about where he went and how he got there and all that, that's beyond me. I don't know if it's beyond y'all or not, but y'all have to fake it. You're preachers, so you have to fake it like you know. Yeah, we know. But I can relate to him. I guess that's the point of him coming, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's actually some prophecies again that help us to understand that's who he was going to be. Zechariah talks about that Jesus came really more as a humble servant, and even though he was king, he doesn't come as a conquering king. He came as a king of peace the first time. So the picture of Jesus riding into Jerusalem on a donkey was really about being a king of peace, because those two symbols were different. And you can think about this in our world. What would we think if the president came to Nashville in his black limousine? Well, people would be interested in that, and they'd want to see that because he's come to be with us, to be a sheriff's speech or whatever. But if he drives up in a tank or a big warplane, you'd be like kind of scared, like, oh my gosh, he's coming to take us over. And so Jesus, when he comes the first time, rides in on the donkey, which means he comes as the king. Even though he is a king, he comes as the king of peace. The book of Revelation tells us that when he comes back, he's going to be riding the white horse. So it's that picture between the first time he came, he comes to bring peace, and mostly our peace with relationship with God, because without Jesus, we're under the wrath of God. And so he's the one that comes to bring us peace in our relationship with God. But when he comes back, he comes as a conquering king, a what we would think of more as a war king. And that's why it's important between that first coming and his second coming that we get this relationship right with him.
Yeah, thank goodness that he came the first time with that mindset, with that plan to bring peace, or to be peace, to have this time of peace for us, so that we have this opportunity to trust in Christ as our Savior and Lord. How scary would it be for us to have the warplanes just automatically just flying over us instead of having the opportunity? It's like, as the United States, we usually try to find a peaceful solution before we roll in the tanks and the bombers and stuff like that. And so Jesus kind of says a good example with that as well. But if we don't have that opportunity, or if we neglect this opportunity that we have right now, it's not going to be a good day.
You don't hear that a lot nowadays. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe I'm isolated, but when I was growing up in rural churches, that was a big part of what you heard pretty frequently, is that it wasn't all just cotton candy and flowers, and that there's a side to this thing that's very serious, and it was frightening.
Yeah.
It was just frightening, and I guess to me there has to be a little bit of a frightening side to this, or I'm kind of hard-headed,
Well, that's why, back in the day, the hellfire and brimstone preachers, there's so much of that going around. Went a little overboard at times with stuff like that. But
maybe.
I mean, we've got to tell people about sin. We've got to tell people about hell, that it's real, and that, a judgment's coming. We're in the season that we're celebrating that first arrival of Jesus, and of him giving us the opportunity and being the peace that he is. But that's just for a season. This ain't going to last for long. And I think Pastor said maybe in one of his recent sermons, we're closer to that event of Jesus coming back than we were yesterday. We're on that countdown, and it's a sure thing. It's a coming towards us.
That's a wee bit sobering. Hey, Neil.
Mm-hmm.
What did you say earlier? You said that You know, you start out asking a question about how does knowing this lineage and all that make you feel more like you believe, I guess, is that how
gives you
could
that
say
assurance.
That?
Yeah.
Is that kind of connected to what you're saying? You like to know things before you...
I think the subject is faith, and the whole idea that faith is believing in something you can't see. You can't prove it. And once we see things, it's not that you don't accept them the same way, but you had to have proof to understand that. And all of these things about Jesus they fit in that category. I think they fit in that category. They were prophetic, meaning that somebody spoke them before they happened, and long enough before they happened. They're documented, so it wasn't like somebody went back and went, oh, well, let's write this in here so that we can tell people that somebody said that.
And it wasn't like they could Google what somebody said immediately to kind of make sure it lined up.
Yeah. So it's an interesting thing to think about how I think our culture has gotten insulated from some of the, you were talking about fire and brimstone preachers, and I just re-listened to, I've got a friend that recorded Jonathan Edwards' Sinners in the Hands of an Angry God, and that started a revival. And the funny thing was, with a title like that, you'd expect it to be, lightning and thunder, and apparently when he delivered it, it was very monotone. But it was the words that convicted people, and I'm sorry, you can push the buzzer because I said convicted people.
I need to anyway because it's been a while.
You did that for this whole episode.
There you go. Okay.
But
preemptive strike.
Preemptive, yes.
Yeah.
we ignored the piece. We just bombed.
People were moved. They heard something they'd never heard before, and all of a sudden they believed where they hadn't believed before. And all of these things about Jesus, we already know that they're factual. We know that he came. There's enough what's called extra-biblical evidence of it, which is things that are not in the Bible. It's like Josephus, and he was a historian, and he documented these things about Jesus and what he did, and we're not sure, but don't think he was a believer. He wasn't following Jesus as an adherent, but he was aware of him and recorded it more as a historical kind of activity. I don't know if I answered what you asked or not.
I think you did. Was Josephus, when was he alive? Do we know
First
that?
century.
I was thinking it was like...
So he was there fresh enough on this story to...
He was dealing with eyewitnesses.
Yeah, he was documenting things.
There's definitely, like Neil said, there's some things outside of the Bible that lets us know that Jesus was a real person. I mean, it's like Roman generals writing back to the emperor going, the people that follow Christos. So they already had a name, so there's this reality that Jesus was a real person, and there were people that were following his teachings as a rabbi, and they would refer to that even though they didn't believe in him or anything. And well, none of us have met Hitler, but we believe in him, and we've heard about him, and we've seen the results of what happened in Nazi Germany. And so there were a lot of people outside of followers of Jesus that knew he was real and believed that he did some of these things. Now, whether they attributed again that he was God and all the other stuff that we have in our faith is different, but they knew he was a real person. You're talking earlier about this apprehension sometimes that we have coming into the presence of God. Every time I go to the doctor, I hate going to the doctor. I don't know about you guys, but I hate going to the doctor. But they're there for our good. They're there to make us better if we're sick, if we're healthy. They're to encourage us to continue to be healthy. But every time I go in, the little girl that takes my blood pressure, she'll be like, well, yeah, it's a little high, but you're at the doctor's, and I understand.
I've heard him say that.
And I'm like, okay, so there's a little apprehension there. And there are times when we go to the doctors and they tell us things that we don't want to hear, but they tell us those things for our own good. I remember my dad had a cancer scare a few years ago, and he'd gone in just for a regular procedure. He had had it several times, and Doctor said everything looks pretty good, but I'll get you a report back. And as soon as the doctor called back and said, hey, we found some spots that look cancerous, I never will forget my dad's response. Because it wasn't me, I'm like, well, get a second opinion, go see somebody else. Dad said, get it out. That's all he said, get it out, which required surgery and some setbacks and all that kind of stuff. But you talk about Jesus being this Prince of Peace, but also this warrior king. He comes peaceably because he wants to encounter us and wants us to feel comfortable with him, but he's also have to deal radically with this cancer called sin in our life. And he can't just sit there and look at you and go, well, Michael, it's okay. It's okay that you're trying not to cuss. That's okay. But you cuss a little bit every now and then. No, it's not okay. And it's not okay that you think these thoughts, and it's not okay. I mean, there's a radical transformation that has to take in ourselves. And if God doesn't do it, then we'll never get better on our own. And so we need that from him. He does love us. He did come to be one of us, and he does want to be peaceable, and he wants us to know him as a friend, but he also wants us to know he's the ultimate authority. And when there needs to be stuff out of our life, it's going to come out of our life.
It's like your parents. It's not just about rules.
No.
If it was just about rules, the first rule you broke, your parent would eliminate you.
Yes.
I'd just eliminate you, and they never have to deal with that again. But they don't. It aggravates them, but they want you to see things right for your own good and for their good. I mean, they're responsible for you. So, yeah, if it was just about rules, with God, he just eliminates you, period. But he don't do that.
Or he could have made us robots.
In fact, I think about Paul and that famous thing Paul said about why don't you just take this thing away from me? It just keeps it's driving me nuts. I can't fix it, evidently, and you're not fixing it for me. Why? Well, perhaps Paul had to have something like that to keep him
in check,
in the loop.
Yep.
Because some of us are very hard-headed, and I guess without weakness, we're not looking for help. Which is the same old story everybody goes through that's around church or just is a Christian. Same story happens over and over and over. If you ever start thinking you're not weak, you're going to get hammered. Speaking from experience.
Doo-dah.
Yep. All my fingers are flat from being hammered.
You said something funny about loop.
Swollen.
I was watching recently this YouTube video. That's what I do when I'm bored. I watch YouTube videos. But he was talking about how to fix a crack in your drywall. And he said, when you fix a crack in your drywall, you've got to go in and you've got to make the crack a little bit bigger so that the putty and stuff will really settle in there. But then he did something I was like, what in the world is he doing? He got to the end of the crack and he made a circle, cut a circle in the drywall. And he just stopped and he looked and he said, the reason I do that is because there's been a weak spot here before. And I'm pretty sure this will want to crack again. But what I wanted to do is I wanted to follow the loop and the crack to come right back to itself.
Wow.
And not continue to go down the wall. Right? That's what I thought. So that's ingenuity. But then spiritually I was thinking, you know what? It's exactly what God wants with us. There's cracks in our character. There's cracks in our life. And He's the one that draws the circle to bring it back to the crack itself so that we don't keep getting worse and worse.
That's really good.
That is good, isn't it?
Yeah, that's really good.
But sin continues to drive us down a path. We work a lot with the Hope Center guys and stuff, and most of their testimony is pretty similar. They didn't start off on heroin or crack cocaine. They started off as a kid smoking cigarettes, and then they drank a little beer, and then they tried pot, and then da-da-da-da-da, and you go down this path. And then you find yourself in a place where, gosh, this is bad, and I can't deal with it. But, I looked at that, and I thought, God kind of does that for us. He kind of creates that loop to bring us back to the same crack that he's already been working on, instead of just letting us get further and further down a path.
Just as he did that, as he came to that first time and is allowing us to, kind of circle back on our sins and things like that, he's circling back as well. And he's, as we've touched on this a little bit already today, he's coming a second time.
Yep.
So at one point in time in future history, all of this, there's going to be a stopping point to what we know of this type of life. At one point in time, Jesus will return, and he is going to judge, and he is going to make the things right that are incorrect right now. So for us as Christians, especially this time of the year, when we are celebrating Christmas, celebrating that our Lord loved us enough to leave the glories of heaven to come into a horrible place we call earth that's sin ravaged. As we're celebrating that right now, it's going to stop at some point in time. He's going to come back the second time as that king, as that Lord of Lords, King of Kings, Lord of Lords, whatever we sing about at Christmas time, stuff like that. And he's going to make this right. And we have this awesome responsibility before that day gets here to make sure other people know about this. Because if we don't do our job, there are people that aren't going to hear about Jesus. He came into this world for a reason. And he has you and I here still for a reason. The four of us sitting around this table, we've all said that we have asked Jesus to be our personal Lord and Savior. We've confessed him. We've asked him to come into our hearts. But God has left us here after that point of salvation because he's got this job for us to do. He wants us to continue to tell the world about Jesus, to tell them that they need this same salvation that the four of us around this table have already received. And as we are celebrating Christmas, we really need that to be front and center of our mindset right now. That, there's a lot of people just in our community that we need to tell about Jesus, to tell about this salvation.
Why do you suppose that, I don't know if there's an answer to this, it just crossed my mind. Why do you suppose that that's up to us? I mean, he's God. Couldn't he have just kind of put the word out himself? I mean, why do you suppose once we're saved, we're not just automatically taken up?
Those are two questions.
It was two questions?
Yeah.
Give us two answers.
Just pick one.
Yeah.
Just take your pick.
Wow.
I don't know. It's just a thought. I've heard that talked about before, and it's...
Well, when you tell somebody about Jesus, after you've done that, the lead up to it, it's stressful. And I don't care who you are, there is some stress that comes along with telling somebody about Jesus. But after you've done that, it's like, that's pretty cool. I'm glad that I did that. Mm-hmm. I mean, God has given us a great blessing
to be able to do that.
By allowing us to do this. Think about eternity. What about when we all get to heaven? The people that we got to speak a word to about Jesus, and we see them in heaven because they eventually accepted Jesus because, maybe we were part of a conversation with them at some point in time. Forever and ever, we're going to celebrate that.
So you're saying that he gave us this as a gift, more or less?
I think so. It's a gift. It's a job for all of us.
I'm still not satisfied, though. Haven't heard what I'm looking for.
It's multi-level marketing. It's the original multi-level marketing.
It is.
If you go to multi-level marketing thing, they will look at you and they'll say, "Okay, Michael, we're going to sign you up today, and you need to go out of here and you need to get you two different folks. They call them legs of your pyramid. You go get two legs and you teach them, and you have them go get two, and have them go get two." And so
it is the ultimate.
The reality of the Christian faith is, one, he gave it to the church, and he tells us that. He says, make disciples of all nations. And it's a command. It's not an option. It's a command. And there's not a plan B. And so you ask, why does he do it this way? Well, there's something about us being involved in telling the story because it's happened to us. Jesus couldn't be saved. He was the Savior. But you and I can put our arms around somebody and tell them, hey, I know exactly how you feel. I know exactly where you've been. I know exactly what you're going through.
It just clicked.
But God did this.
It just clicked. I'm going to have to buzz myself.
Yeah.
But I'm going to say it. God is a relational being.
Yes.
And we're created in his image, so we're relational. So without being able to relate to each other about it, I got a buzz relational. Sorry. It is what it is. But it just clicked that what I was looking for is a reason why I'm not just taken away. It's because he likes being in relationship with me. He puts me in a situation where obviously, I say it all the time, the only thing you got left on your deathbed is your relationships. That's all you own, period. You don't own anything else.
Yep.
You never owned anything else, but you own those. And it's just like being a part of him. He's just connected. Years ago, I stole the recycle, that little recycle logo you see. I'm going to change the way you look at that from now on. Everywhere you see that. To me, that little recycle thing is God up here is pouring love into me, and he's expecting me to pour it sideways into somebody else, who in turn pours it back up to him. That's what the recycle image looks like to me. I think I sitting around one waiting room at a doctor's place one time looking at those little things. But I think that's the reason I'm looking for. I think in talking this circle back to why.
You have to think about too who God is and why he does what he does. And I mean, you can come up with some churchy answers. Well, he's God and he just knew the best way. But you're also called a child of God. I don't know about you, but when my kids were growing up, we talked about Christmas. I wanted them to experience some of the things that I had experienced or I enjoyed about Christmas. So you want them to become a part of it, and you let them grow up in it, and you teach them, and you show them. And there's a lot of joy in serving them when they're little, but there's a lot of joy too as they get older and start being able to buy gifts for other people, and they get real excited about wrapping and going to see somebody and love on them. And so part of God's purpose in leaving us here is helping us to be a part of what's important to him. This is what's important to him. People are important to him. And so he leaves us here. We always laugh about Michael Kuntz being the geek, the sci-fi geek, the old beam me up Scotty. Yeah, I mean, God's ultimate goal for us is to be in heaven with him. So when we say we believe and we pray and ask him into our life, then why doesn't he immediately take us up? Well, because he wants us to be involved with what he's involved with. And he's involved in loving on people who are hurting and people. And again, we have a unique vantage point, by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony. People may all day long tell you, I don't believe that stuff in the Bible. But your testimony is your testimony. It
is, period. You can't take that away from somebody.
That's
either.
it. That's right. That's it.
Mm-hmm. You really can't.
So how cool would it be one day?
Sorry, I went hillbilly on you there for a second.
How cool would it be one day when we hear that somebody listened to Mike the Baptist and decided to give their life to Christ?
Yeah,
that would make all this worth it, wouldn't it?
It
not that we're not having fun anyway.
It would make it worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it would make it worth it because I want people that don't know this to know this. Not because I'm working on a quota, because I don't care for numbers. But going back to the relational aspect of it, I want people that don't know this to know this because I can personally tell you it's helpful. Mm-hmm. It's the only source of peace, actual peace I've ever known. I mean, that lasts. Mm-hmm. And peace to me is not temporary. Peace to me is you can settle into it. It's like settling into a really good chair at the beach.
Yep.
A real peace. And this is the only real peace I have ever really seen. I mean, I've had a lot in my years. I've had a lot of temporary excitements and joys and happiness. And I mean, it's because I'm searching for that kind of stuff all the time. So, I'm going to trip on some of that. But knowing him and trying to get to know him is the only peace, real peace I have ever. And I think it's safe to say that's the only real peace there is on the planet that you'll ever know in your time. I think it's the only real peace you'll ever know.
Yeah, because all this other stuff disappoints.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man.
And it gets away from you.
Yeah.
Families. We talked about families. My grandmother's died. My grandfathers have died. Friends have walked away. People that you remember in high school, and I love when you graduate high school. I love you, man. We're going to keep up for the rest of our life, and you never talk to any of them again, ever.
Right.
Those things, they go away, and your strength goes away, and your money goes away, and your health goes away. But God never goes away. He gets where everything else is kind of slipping away. He seems to me get stronger and stronger in my life as the years go on.
And he's always there.
He's always there.
I often wondered years ago what my world would be like. My grandparents raised me, so I knew I was coming to a point where you lose your, quote, parents
Right.
sooner than a lot of other people would. And I used to wonder how that's going to make me feel when that actually happens, because there's nobody above me at that point. And then I look around nowadays, and the people who are sideways to me, sisters and aunts and uncles, and I never had any sisters, but being raised by my grandparents, my aunts were actually kind of my sisters. So it's complicated. It's Arkansas. Yeah. But a lot of those people are gone. All my brothers are gone. I'm the only one left in that chain. I'm sad that all those people are gone. I really miss them. But God is still right there.
Yep.
He never changed. And I think he has told me, you're going to be okay.
Yep.
You're going to be okay. And like I said, all those people that have passed away, they're still real alive in my head anyway. So people may physically die on me, but they don't go away in my head. They're still right there. But, yeah.
One of the most sobering realities, and this is hard for people outside of Christianity to understand. There is no purpose for your life, none, outside of knowing God. Everything else.
Now that's kind of harsh, HD.
Everything else ends. Everything else ends, and there's only purpose in knowing God. If you may get real spiritual, Jesus says, "This is eternal life, that they would know you, and the one whom you have sent." So from his own mouth, this is what life is really all about, knowing God and knowing the Son. And outside of that, gosh, and that's really hard. I was watching the thing, again, I YouTube a lot because I get bored. I was watching this thing, and it's this stupid stuff catches my attention. Top 10 celebrity mansions, and they show, where Beyonce lives and where Selena Gomez lives, and they're showing all these houses and how much money it costs and all that stuff. You know what I saw? I was like, oh my gosh, somebody's got to clean that. Somebody's got to cut all that grass. That pool right there, it's going to get green. Who's going to take care of that?
You can tell you're getting older.
Yeah. All I saw was stuff to do, and I was like, it's stressing me out. I was like, I'm satisfied with where I live, and I'd be okay if it was smaller. But, we're coming to an end. I mean, my kids don't really know who my grandparents were. My grandkids definitely don't know. No clue. So there's an end of my time here, and what's my purpose in life? Make a bunch of money? Well, that's going to go away. Try to be as healthy as that's going to go away. Try to love as many people? That's going to go away. But my relationship with God is eternal. And, man, if you're going to spend your life at doing something, might as well do the right thing. The only thing that brings purpose, I think.
And peace.
And peace.
Real peace.
Yep.
And it ain't hard to do.
Nope.
It just starts in your head. You start in your head, and then he'll kind of fill in the rest of it. That's my experience. But you got to start there. I mean, it ain't ever going to happen if you don't start. It's just not going to happen. You can just run around, flit around the planet, for the rest of your life, and never really, always kind of dodge that one little piece there. But not as big a mystery as you might think, is it? But you got to start. Is this like a church invitation, sort of?
I mean,
It's right there.
it's what Paul says. Salvation is on the tip of your tongue. It's right there. It stares everybody in the face. We all did. We ran from it.
I'll bet you money a person could just walk out there and look up in the sky and say, God, I want you to save me, and it's done. I can just about guarantee you that would work. I just about guarantee it.
If you're real, I've heard people say, if you're real,
Well, yeah, if you're not
I want
real,
to
it
know
don't
you.
matter.
I want to know you, and then to see how God revealed Himself to them. And again, I know we all go to church.
Dang, I may shout in a minute or something.
Sometimes we can make it too churchy. We have altar calls, and we have tracts and fill out the form and everything. But I've often wondered, we do altar calls at church, and I'm okay with doing that. But if somebody truly wants to get right with God, and they stood up and they're walking toward me, and they dropped dead of a heart attack before they got to me, are they going to end up in heaven, or are they going to end up somewhere else?
I'm leaning toward heaven.
I'm leaning toward, because again, it's a act of obedience. It's not talking to the preacher. It's not doing all these things that some of them are really important. But what makes the difference is that surrendering your life to God.
That start. Yeah.
I mean, and honestly, when you start that, He's the one that started it. He who began a good work in you will complete it, right?
I'll just tell you, there wasn't no preacher in the room with me in Lexington, Tennessee one night when I was saved.
Yeah.
There wasn't no preacher there.
Yeah. Probably works better that way.
I think it worked a little smoother. Yeah, there wasn't no preacher there, and I'm just as saved as y'all are. I'll bet you money. Bet. As the young people
100%.
Say. Yeah, wait, where did this start?
I don't know. We started off with prophecy and we got down into some good stuff, man.
Yeah, talking about, Jesus' first coming, the peace that He brings, then His second coming, and we got to tell the word. We got to tell people about it all.
It worked, seems like.
It did. I think so.
So, yeah, it's important to know, all that lineage and genealogy stuff in the Bible is so boring. That's just incredible. I'm sorry. It just is what it is. It's just incredibly
We
boring.
ought to buzz you for that, but
I'll buzz myself.
It's
still boring though. But I will give it to you here that it's important, because just as Neil said a little while ago, he wants to know before he's going to jump. Is that how'd you say that?
I don't remember.
I don't either.
that was an hour ago.
We're paraphrasing. It was something to the effect of before you step, you want to know.
Yeah, before you have evidence.
It's
Which Indiana Jones film was it? Mm-hmm. Where he has to walk across the chasm.
Oh yeah, the third one. Yes,
has to walk across the chasm.
Has to take that first
and it's
step.
all about his perspective too, because as you look from his view, there is nowhere to step.
Yep.
And the camera, as he takes his step out, the camera goes this way, and all of a sudden you see there's a bridge across that he can walk on. So when he takes that first step, there's something there to support him.
Right.
It's not just out in the open. And
So
God
is that just your human nature that makes you kind of that way? Or is it because you like to be prepared?
I think it's survival instinct, probably. I think so. I mean, as I think about the things we were talking about, everything that we want to work for us is subject to atrophy. Everything is falling apart. It just is as a result of, hit the buzzer, it's a result of the fall.
Sure.
Because things, the way that I read the first section of the Bible is things did not fall apart. Things were self-perpetuating. God made them so they'd last forever. Our bodies were created for eternity. And that's one of the difficult things about when somebody's dying is their body. I've got friends that are hospice nurses, and every one of them has said the same thing. That body continues to fight even if you are at peace with the fact that you are going on. The body wants to fight because it knows it's made for eternity. It's made to last forever. There's nowhere in Scripture where God said, I'm going to change that. We'll make that just a part-time warranty. It's not a lifetime warranty. It's a forever thing. But it's one of those struggles of that doesn't make sense up here, and I want it to make sense up there, or else I'm not going to believe it. And I just think a lot of the things that we believe to be truth requires that We believe that even though we can't factually prove other than God's word. We can't say, yeah, that's exactly what's going to happen. You have to believe it. You got to act on believing those things.
You step out a little bit, which is what you were saying a little bit ago.
But we don't have to have a blind faith.
And that's part of what this is.
I mean,
He gave us
right
stuff to see.
Part of his coming was, you've seen me, you've seen the Father. I want you to know, I want you to understand. After his resurrection, Thomas, touch me, touch my hands and see that I am real, So we don't have to have a blind faith. But here's the reality, and I think Neil's right. At the end of the day, it does come down to faith. Everybody has faith. I mean, if you're
one way or the other,
if you're an atheist, you're having faith in something.
Yeah.
Evolutionists have a faith in something. They go back far enough, and you go, what caused the cause? And you keep pressing them on that. And eventually, they'll say, well, maybe it was alien. And we kind of smile and goes, yeah, his name is God. So, faith, we all have it, but what are you putting your faith in?
This is why it's good. I think the Christmas story is simplified for kids.
Yep.
Because at a very young age, they can get that story in their mind, and then as they grow up, all these facts start kind of filling in the gaps. And so when you get grown, and then you get the whole picture of that story, all of it makes sense, and you understand it, and you appreciate it even more that it happened. Remind me to call up Steve Martin's song, Atheist Ain't Got No Song. I got to call that up and play it for you. Have you heard that?
Yeah.
It's hilarious. It's just hilarious. Good talk. Have we reached a synopsis?
I believe so.
Because you started all
I
this.
think so.
Yeah,
I think we're good.
Are you satisfied?
Whew, we're
Yeah.
tired.
We're out.
Yeah.
I'm also hungry,
Yeah.
sleepy.
You're three of the dwarfs.
We could easily add another one, but
Is Dumpy a dwarf? Because I'm getting
Dopey.
there too. Dopey. Well, yeah. I got that one. Speaking of Dopey, we'll take a break, come back, play Inny or Outty. That'll get us all revved back up, etc.
You may have seen people wearing Mike the Baptist t-shirts or hoodies lately and wondered to yourself, hey self, where could I get some of that bling bling? Well, tell yourself not to worry, because it's easy to order Mike the Baptist logo tees and hoodies for yourself or your family and friends. Visit MikeTheBaptist.com, click on the merchandise link, and shop away. Lots of colors and sizes to pick from. And now available, I'm Just a Christian Trying Not to Cuss tees and hoodies. Mike the Baptist is all about real talk with real people, spreading the good news to a world who can really use some good news right now. When you purchase Mike the Baptist tees and hoodies, you're helping Mike and the crew pay the bills to keep Mike the Baptist on the interwebs and talking about God's love for all people. It's really that simple. And we make no apologies for having fun and living out the Christian life. Order your tees or hoodies today with just the logo or familiar sayings you hear on Mike the Baptist episodes. Just visit MikeTheBaptist.com and click on merchandise. Thanks so much for watching and listening to Mike the Baptist and for your support in helping us spread the good news. What a great planet.
Hey everybody, it's time to play America's almost favoriteest new game show, Inny or Outty, where we challenge our guests to figure out if a phrase we give them is actually in the Bible or out of the Bible. Sharpen your wits, guest. You're about to be in the hot seat of Bible stuff, because you're the next contestant on Inny or Outty. Here's Mike.
We thought about going on home and going to bed, but we knew that you would be sorely disappointed that you missed Inny or Outty. I hear a lot of good things still about Inny or Outty, and it's interesting. I don't know if you guys hear many comments, but I hear some very interesting comments about Inny or Outty. I won't go into all of them, but they're just interesting. So keep them coming. Speaking of keeping it coming, comments at MikeTheBaptist.com. Send us an email. Love to just know your thoughts. I mean, I'd hate to think that we do this and go to all this trouble and nobody's even caring. So let us know you care, and then we'll maybe keep doing it. Anyway, there is a talks underway to do Mike the Baptist Live coming soon. We'll fill you in on more details as we have them. Should be a thrilling time on the planet, to say the least. Anyway, more details later. Right now, we're moving into Inny or Outty. H.D. Jones and Michael Kuntz are controlling today. Neil and I are left to fend for ourselves. Twice in a row. Twice in a row. I guess you could do. Can you do twice in a row? It would be one in a row. Get back to me.
Okay.
HD.
All right,
challenge us.
I've got a friend of mine, Julia. So we're not using last names, right?
No.
Julia
Burns,
who sometimes burns the bread, has these great little sayings, and she's got one of these sayings. She gets excited, and she'll go, "For crying in a bucket."
I've never heard that.
You know, I was wondering where she got that, and I was wondering if it was in the Bible. But "for crying in a bucket" is not in the Bible. But my question to you three scholars is,
well, look, it's got a hole in it. It's not in there either. If that's where you're going, we'll jump on that quick.
There's a hole in your bucket.
is
I'm
the
sorry.
phrase "a drop in the bucket" in the Bible or not?
Wow.
Not crying in a bucket, but a drop in the bucket.
It is.
Oh, wow.
Wow, Neil jumps out there.
We have a Kuntz moment over on the other side of the table there.
It's in the Old Testament.
It's in the Old Testament?
It's in Isaiah.
No discussion about that?
Wow, man.
I think y'all should think on that a little bit. I mean, you know.
Okay.
Well, we got
Neil's been eating potato chips a lot.
I know. We're going to beleaguer it for a little
Yes.
bit because I've got all that music I have to let unfold. I have to build the suspense. A drop in the bucket. And you said it's in there in the Old Testament.
Yes, it is.
But do you have any other information about what story it might have been?
It's in Isaiah 40, verse 15.
What? That's pretty precise right there.
Man, I love this one because he made this
Sorry.
easy for us. I'm like,
Yep.
he is so positive.
I'm just
well,
saying
I
for
ain't going
me.
against him.
I'm
Nah,
pretty confident about that.
I'm
Well, we
trusting Neil, man. This
Hey,
is
when
good.
you
I
know,
like
you
it.
know.
Maybe you and I could just talk about the weather
Yeah,
or something.
talk about that.
Well, it's a little bit warmer today than it was yesterday.
It is.
The temperature didn't trickle today like it did a
did
couple days
not.
ago.
Did they have buckets back then?
Sure. They had to have something.
Okay.
I mean, maybe they didn't call it a bucket, but
Well, they were working copper in those days and stuff, weren't they? Weren't they working
More
copper?
like bowls. They called theirs bowls, didn't they?
They're a wooden bucket.
This is some high intelligence on display right here.
so I'm
Just in case you're wondering.
I'm kind of thinking this is an Inny myself.
Well, you know, if it was just H and I in the room, and he had said that to me, I'd said, H, come on,
That's countrified right there.
you're full of hooey.
Hooey.
But
That's in there too.
Neil is actually a pretty smart guy. We're going to look that up about the hooey here. Neil's actually a pretty smart guy. And he just immediately pulled
Oh, yeah.
a Kuntz and said, it's in there.
Yep. And even gave a reference.
Yeah.
And he gave an exact reference. And he's got the Kuntz smile, possum smile, which like, I know something here.
fixing
No,
to win.
that's this.
Yeah, that is different.
That's every possum I see looks like.
And if you're not watching the video, you just lost out. So, Kuntz, I'm with you. I'm going to side up with you and ride on Neil's coattail
Absolutely, man.
all the way through this one because
this is
I
like
feel like
a grand slam. I feel like just being handed to us.
I think so, and I with my track record, usually paired up with HD, I need a win or two. Yep, we're saying it is
In there.
an Inny.
So Isaiah 40:15, behold, the nations are like a drop from a bucket, and are counted as the dust on the scales. Behold, he takes up the coastlands like fine dust.
Man,
He was right on it. Yeah.
I'm just going to tell you what, I don't think I would be alone with the number of people. I don't think I would be in a minority of people who thought that would not have been in there. Maybe I'm not giving the other people enough
That was a
credit
really
here.
good one. That was
that
a
was
really
good.
good one, and we were lucky that Neil had this one memorized. I was like,
We
yeah,
were
we
lucky.
were lucky on this
Now,
one.
Neil,
Yeah.
why did you have that in your head there?
I was reading that scripture not long ago. Yeah.
Well, that's not fair because I was reading some scripture earlier and I don't even remember what I read.
I have this. I have a daily issue with
Were
this.
you
I
reading
think it
Joseph
actually-
3:1?
I don't even know what book I was in.
Joseph.
I think that actually stuck in my head because I read that and I thought that's an unusual phrase.
Yes.
That we use in our, modern vernacular all the time.
Drop in the bucket.
Would never have thought that came from.
So that's probably where that originally came from. That phrase.
Yes, I would say so.
Wow, that was good.
Yeah,
that was really good.
That was a fun one.
Okay, Coach.
All right.
He has set the bar incredibly high on you.
He has.
I'm just going to say.
Yeah, Pastor's leading the way. So,
Well, he's supposed to.
that's right. That's why he's
I'm just saying.
the man.
You
like
get
to hang
paid to
around
do
smart
something, you ought to do it.
Just hang around smart people.
All right, for this Inny or Outty, he who bemoans his poverty,
Yeah.
should seek help from his friends. He who bemoans his poverty should seek help from his friends.
See, all I'm hearing is he who beleaguers his poverty. So I'm having to stop and really think.
Bemoans.
He
Different
who
word.
bemoans his poverty is what?
Should seek help from his friends.
He who bemoans his poverty.
So
Okay.
if you're complaining about not having money, ask your friends.
Is that what that's saying?
I don't know. That's what that sounds like. I know bemoans is in
That
there.
sounds more understandable than bemoans is like complaining,
Yeah.
Murmuring. Yeah.
murmuring. Like the way you said that, murmuring. He who bemoans his poverty.
That's
So he who,
murmuring.
what did you say when you turned it into English? He who,
He who complains.
about not having no money,
Yep.
should.
What was the last part of the phrase?
Should seek help
You
from
got
his
no,
friends.
You got no cabbage. Talk to your friends.
Ask for some
Yeah.
cabbage, borrow some cabbage.
Yeah.
You ain't got no cabbage, ask if you can borrow some cabbage.
Go see your homies.
He who poverty.
Homies, that's Aramaic.
Yes.
I have no educational background for.
You knew the other. You busted me out of the water. So come on. Yeah.
I haven't read this one recently.
Oh my gosh.
It sounds like it could be there though to me, but except for the bemoans.
I don't think the
Well, the Moses. I think we're good there.
yeah that's
That'd be the
that's
one
in
place
there.
we would be good.
Yeah. I think
Friends is in there probably.
I think we're there. Where I'm kind of struggling is,
that particular advice.
do we go to our friends or we go to the Lord?
Yes.
Oh,
That's where I
Because we're not supposed to,
Be indebted.
be indebted.
see that pastoral education
Yeah.
that you paid for came in
I
handy
don't
right
know
there.
about that. I don't know about that. It just, working with this guy,
Yes.
he's trying to trip us up. I'm just
Well,
telling you.
the more Inny or Outty goes on, I notice the more sly
Yes.
all my Christian friends here are getting about trying to sneak up on you, and looking really, really happy when they do. Now look at this look on Kuntz's face right here.
Pretty deadpan.
Don't shrinkle back.
Okay, I'm getting a gut feeling. I don't know about you guys.
Did you eat the potato
I was
chips?
going to
I've
ask.
been eating potato chips for 2
Who
or
else
3
had the
days.
chips today?
I've ate so many of them. I
Chips
Is
could
your
sit down.
wife making pot roast in here? or-
She's not making any pot roast today. We use similar seasonings.
Do you get that in a bottle? Or?
You can get it in a bottle.
Can you feel me?
This is about to go downhill real
Yeah.
quick.
Yeah.
Oh.
All right, bemoaning.
Stop bemoaning me.
And
You don't want to fill a balloon.
Poverty.
He
you got to snort there.
was it me or somebody?
Yeah,
that was
you
yours.
snorted at it. Yep.
I don't think it's in there because HD, you triggered something in my intellect that made sense. Finally, no, not finally for you. Finally for
okay.
my intellect. I agree. I don't think that scripture would be in there. It says, "Go ask a friend for cabbage."
Should go to the Lord. That sounds more spiritual.
Go to the Lord for
That's
cabbage.
probably in there. So we're,
Yeah, I know we're fixing to fail miserably, but
hey,
we're going to try to sound intelligent while we're doing it. Neil,
Yeah, I'm an Outty on that, and it's that specific reason. And I was trying to think, the rest of that could be in there exactly that way, except for that piece of it. It doesn't seem like godly advice.
Asking for cabbage. Bemoaning your poverty could be in there.
Yeah,
Right.
that sounds, yeah.
Yep.
So let's just vote on this.
It's an Outy.
It's out.
We're all three. It's Outy.
All right, so y'all haven't read Zechariah lately.
Oh no!
It's not in there though. No, this is just an old English proverb.
Good.
Oh,
Yep,
wow.
not in the Bible.
An old English proverb.
Yep.
Wow.
But it sounds so
does.
King Jamesist.
Yep.
Yeah, old English. King James.
Oh, well, see, there you go.
Shakespeare too.
That would make sense.
Good job, fellas. That's good.
Well, that was a good one too, because that one made us actually think.
Yeah, Neil stopped us from thinking
I'm
today.
sorry.
No, don't be. We're happy.
Prevented your
Those were both good.
Yeah.
If you're listening or watching and you want to send us ideas for In Your Outy, send them in. We may not use them, but send them in. It'll make you feel good about yourself for a little bit. I'm sorry. Here.
You'll then be on our spam mail.
We'll be back with a spiritual hymn, and that'll make it all better.
Oh, wow. What a great contestant and a fine sport today on Inny or Outty, America's almost favorite new game show. Study up, future guest people. You're next in the hot seat for Inny or Outty.
What a great planet. This is a true statement. We say that all the time. You see it printed on stuff. It's a true statement. It is really a great planet. Speaking of planets, this time of year you can see several planets really good just with your eye. If you got binoculars, you can see them better. If you got telescopes, you can see them better. But this is a great time of year. I mean, early in the evening, Mars pops up over there. I guess it's kind of in the eastern sky, and it's really bright. I'm not kidding.
yeah.
Download Google Sky Map on your phone, and you can just look up there. And
Saturn's
fascinating.
been visible too.
Huh?
Saturn's been visible. Too.
Saturn is
It's
visible.
itty-bitty.
You can see it with your eye, and a little bit better through binoculars, but you need a telescope to see those rings really good. Anyway, that's all free stuff right there. That was extra. No extra charge. It is the Christmas season, and we're entering into the Christmas season, and believe it or not, well, yeah, of course, all great hymnals have hymns in them that are Christmas hymns.
Absolutely.
They all, and Mike the Baptist hymnal is no exception. We've got our own section of Christmas hymns right there, just like the big boys do.
Big boys.
In those big red and blue hymnals that you never see anymore. I don't know where those are. Oh, I did see a couple at my home church. They were like under the leg of a table in the dining hall, I think. But but they work, so
They're functional.
the thickness is all the same, so you can get the level on. So page 121, an odd number, but it is what it is, in the Mike the Baptist hymnal is part of that section. There's about 12 Christmas hymns in there, and this is one of them. I think this may be the first one. We're going to sing it for you in the spirit of the Christmas season, with great reverence for this time of year, just as it should be. Correct?
As it should be.
Amen.
Grandma
Got run over by a reindeer walking home from our house Christmas Eve. You can say there's no such thing as Santa, but as for me and Grandpa, we believe.
She'd been
Drinking too much eggnog,
and we
begged her not to go.
but
She'd left her medication, so she stumbled out the door into the snow. Yeah, there you go.
When they
Found her Christmas morning
at
at the scene of the attack. There were hoof prints on her forehead and incriminating claw marks on her back.
Oh,
Grandma got run over by a reindeer walking home from our house Christmas Eve. You can say there's no such thing as Santa, but as for me and Grandpa, we believe. Amen.
That may be the best Acapulco we've sounded.
This is the most serious we've took a hymn on Mike the Baptist, I think, since we started it, since day one. And it took a spiritual Christmas hymn to do it.
I mean, we
It's
started
Christmas.
off talking about our grandmas at Christmas.
Oh, we did.
We
did.
ended. It's just been a real sentimental
You
day.
said it was going to be a different kind of day.
It is.
Boy,
There you go.
It was. And thanks for being with us, because you're kind of different too. I always say, we ain't fancy, but you ain't either. And here's proof of it all. Thanks, fellas. Enjoy it, as always.
Likewise. Thank you.
We just Christians.
Try not to cuss.
Mike the Baptist.